Advice Mondays with me, Krystal Tomlinson. You know why we do what we do. I need it and you need it. That good, strong conversation is supposed to help us to move that mindset from the idea that we lack something and we should go into the world to seek, to find, to fill, and to recognize the existing abundance that we all are meant to enjoy. We want to make sure that we help you to change your mind about the things you think limit you and bring you closer to accessing your power and living in your purpose. And of course, a healthy mind is really what you need to live a healthy life. Emotional wellness, living with gratitude and with a lens that makes you feel like you belong here and you can do all the right things to enjoy the time that you spend on this earth. Thank you for joining us for another in our series as we talk, live and share with you the experiences that will consider good gas, the thing you need in your time to keep you running and running well as you traverse the landscape. We're here this time with Olivia Rose. She's a practitioner in the field of sports psychology. And because this program really likes to talk about what's going on in the mind, it's interesting to hear what happens in the mind of some of our high performers. Athletes tend to be the most celebrated high performers in our society, particularly in Jamaica. We know them. We love when them win. And it's almost, I think, a disservice because when they don't win, we don't seem to celebrate them. So maybe they too have a lot to teach us about how to deal with loss. But let's hear from Olivia Rose. Olivia, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. It's a pleasure to have you, my dear.
Thank you for having me.
Look here, I want to get into the mind of the athletes. For me, Usain Bolt, and I wrote about him in my book, Kill Fear. He is one of the best examples of what it means to kill fear as the world watches and tells you what your limitations are. A man who has broken all the records that we know on the track for 100 meter and 200 meter still has people telling him what he can and cannot do. You must only run, you can't play football. And so he has gone on to do that. What happens in the mind of an athlete for them to work the body, build the body, push the body, and keep that machine functioning at high performance? What have you learned so far in sports psychology?
Well, in the mind of an athlete, there are several things that happen. It's similar to the mind of a regular human being that has goals that they want to achieve. It's just that where an athlete is concerned, their performance is usually televised, it's usually in front of a lot of thousands of people and usually happens at a very short time. So because of that, there is intense pressure, there is a lot of anxiety and just wondering, will I achieve this goal in the time zone that I have to? Because let's take running for example. You have a set time that you must show up, and if you don't, other people are there to show up. So it's not just about you achieving your goal of sub 10 seconds because other people have those same goals. So you are actually trying to achieve your goal in competition. So it's not just about you. Yeah. And we've been told many times that you should never compare yourself to other people and so on. So that's the difference between an athlete and people who are not into sports like that. You are usually setting the mark against yourself as a regular human being. Not that athletes aren't, but some of them aren't. Mm-hmm. And as an athlete, you are setting it against the clock and against other people. So, but a lot of times the pressure is internal. Pressure has sometimes nothing to do with the fans or anybody else, but just you wondering if you will be able to make the mark. So that is why understanding what happens and not just understanding what happens, but being able to identify steps that can help you to achieve are really, really important.
Who are some of the sportsmen and women that you've had the pleasure of working with?
Well, other than the fact that I can't say they are kind of the sports industry.
Okay,
so okay. I work with athletes, amateur athletes, professional athletes locally and at the regional level. And they compete in approximately 12 different sports actually. I'm just learning one new one and actually had a conversation about how challenging it is for me to learn all the different rules about different sports, but that's also very engaging as well because I get to do what's called a trade-off. So I'll teach you the mental skills once you are receptive to it, and I have to underline, bold, italics that part, because if you aren't, it's pointless. And then I get to learn about your sport and what it takes and the different rules and regulations and so on. And ultimately help you to deliver when it matters the most, which is competition.
So before we get into what some of those mental skills are that you have to help to sharpen them, because I imagine everybody has a skill or can develop a skill, but don't know how to. They don't know what the first step is to take. But how do you prepare yourself to manage people's minds and people's emotions? How do you prepare yourself? what do you say to yourself, like, today, Olivia, you are going to deal with somebody who has performance anxiety, and they're going to say, oh, that is thing I think is true, and you have to receive that with empathy, with compassion, with patience. How do you prepare yourself?
Funny enough, you should ask that, because I've done several interviews and I have been practicing for the past decade, and I've never been asked that question. So that's a good one, Krystal. Well, it is, for one, being self-aware. So just as I expect athletes to be self-aware, as a sports psychologist, I am also self-aware. So by that I mean, checking in your emotions. How am I feeling? What is triggering why I'm feeling this way? And what is it that I have to do? There are times when, as the psychologist dealing with and managing so many different emotions, that you don't get the time to feel in the moment that things are happening, which is why you also have your own professional help outside of the people that you're working with. So I do have sports psychologists that are my very good friends and colleagues. Unfortunately, they are not in Jamaica, but we still have a moment where we are accessible to each other for debriefing and just, talking about our different challenges, because it's completely different when you work in the sport arena versus when you have to see a client in an office-like setting.
Yeah.
So that's one. And of course, just the simple things that ordinary people do, being grateful, checking your emotions, ensuring that you show up for work, because this is what you require of other people, being professional. So, I mean, on a personal level, there was a time when I had to deal with a team, and I was overseas, and I got a call that my brother was hit down by a car, and they didn't know who hit him down, and I just got that information. I just checked to find out if he was alive and if he was okay, and who were my family members on the ground. Once I got all of that information, I don't recall getting any moment to even finish the egg that I was eating, because I actually remember the whole situation. And then I had to go and deal with a team that needed their mental session before a major competition, which would have happened the next day. Thankfully, my brother is okay, but that was something that tested the very same thing that I ask of people, because you just have to show up for work regardless of what the situation is. Many people would say, well, why don't you go home? Again, I was outside of the country, and the thing about sports is that, which makes it completely different from so many other professions, is that there are so many things that will happen while you are not there, right? People will be born, people will die, you'll miss graduation, you will miss many special moments. So it's very important for you to have a very good support system. And when you have that kind of support system, don't take it for granted. So time is very crucial to an athlete, and just spending as much as you can with the people that matter the most to you, because when you're on tour for 6 weeks and 12 weeks, those are not easy things to do, especially adjusting to people's food, culture, and so many other things, which is why it's very important that you have a strong mind, or you're receptive to training your mind, that you can handle these hurdles when they come.
So what are some of the tools that you use now in the training of the mind? What are some of the things that you walk your clients through?
Alright, so in the training of the mind, we use a combination of techniques, which can be and range from progressive relaxation deep breathing, meditation, things that you and I do, but we have a psychological term to them. Goal setting, extremely crucial.
Hold on, you need to tell me that when people do goal setting and vision boarding as a personal exercise, clinically, psychologically, like doctorally, that is something where it's important.
That is very important. Yes, Krystal, I think it's you now for imagery, which includes the whole process of visualization. But we look at it from a spectator's point of view versus internally. You know, how do you see yourself at the end of an event? What are the things that you will be thinking? How are you seeing yourself on the podium? If you're seeing yourself on the podium in at all, what will your interviews be like? So you have to have a very clear idea of what the end will be. We call that the outcome part of the visualization versus the process part, how your hands will be moving during the race, how do you plan to start, or even just basically being present in the moment too, because it's all well and good to use these techniques, but I also need you to know when to park them so that you are able to function at your optimal, knowing your individual zone of optimal functioning, which we call ISOF, is where you find out if you work better being moderately aroused or low, or if you need a high intensity. So it is about you knowing probably a particular song, a gospel song will work to get you in the zone, and sometimes for somebody else it is going to be a love song. So you have to identify those little things that make you tick, and once you're able to identify those things, I am able now to remind you to, hey, use those things. Because once, yes, so it becomes an entire program that we do. It's not a quick fix, by the way. Many people think, well, nothing with the mind can be a quick fix, no matter how receptive you are, because the mind needs to be trained in order for it to achieve the kinds of goals that is desirable. Once you're able to do that, we tailor make our programs to suit you and where you are. So yeah, that's about it, I think.
Okay, so what I found is that the tools that you have described as part of the training of the mind for a sportsman and sportswoman are similar things that we would use in coaching, in our own personal development curriculum. Persons who do what I do, those are the same things that we're asking people to make use of. When you explain that to a sportsman who is used to, or a sportswoman who's used to a tangible goal, like a thing, like a gold medal in my hand is how I know I win. You can't imagine saying I win and then make a feel like how I win. What are some of the barriers that you have to get them over for them to receive that kind of thing? Because you said it at the beginning, their mind are ready, it not gonna happen. How do you get them over those hurdles?
The hurdles are literal and figurative in sports psychology, and as it relates to the ones that are figurative, the ones that you can't see, believe me, those hurdles are enormous, especially if you are going to take into consideration culture, because many times there is this aversion to, no one she come work in my mind, where she go. So I'm usually, yes, or that part easily. You know, so I have now become almost like a recording that you hear when you have no credit left. So once I go into a team, we start to work with anybody. The first thing I usually say is that working with a sports psychologist doesn't mean that you are crazy. Maybe you are, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. And it simply means that you want to maximize your potential on the day when it matters the most, which is competition. And these are the things that I'm going to ask of you to do in order for us to achieve those goals. Sometimes, because it's not anything tangible, and you'll be sitting in a session and I'm explaining something to you, there might be some kind of resistance initially. But what I have found is that the people who are the athletes who resist the most, it's interesting that they are the ones who practice it the most when nobody's looking or when they think nobody's around, including the positive self-talk as well, because that's part of what we do. and the affirmations. And based on that initial resistance, it's usually because of not wanting to come off like you are practicing this thing too much, especially the fact that you can't touch it and there is no medal that you'll get, but there is a greater medal that you'll get. Actually, this is how you actually get the medal, because the talent is hugely overrated. Most people that you and I know or that compete in sport, they actually have some form of talent. And it is really who can withstand the anxiety of competition and deliver when we really want them to, which is during that time. During the time at the clock and after the whistle. Yeah.
So we talk about them working against the clock and having an appreciation for time. That in itself is its own pressure, feeling as though time is running out. For an athlete, time runs out. Your muscles aren't at peak anymore, you age out, your body can't do the things that it used to do. Luton Shelton in recent times has been one of those examples of how somebody with excellent performance at national level physically can be present as their body just stops functioning. When we counsel them in those periods of peak performance and high performance is one thing. How do you prepare a mind for its valley? As it gets off the mountain now and it's really petering off, how do you counsel a mind for those low swings when you just now can't do it no more and you may have to put this down for something else?
Well, one of the good things about sports is that initially it's based on winning and losing. So from day one, you know that losses are a part of life or the life of an athlete. So I think that's one good foundation that sports offers, but not many people are accustomed to or know how to navigate when things don't work the way they want them to. So part of what I do is to help you to recover from losses, help you to go back in the ring, as they say, and then how to know when it's going to be time to transition from that process, which usually is difficult because many people don't know when to stop regardless of the signals that the body is giving, and then that is when they are the toughest mentally. You know, my mind can do it, but then, you know, the body achieves what the mind believes, so you don't want to kill anybody's dreams either. But again, within the professional sphere, you have to be able to caution a person as to how much more they can do. But then we work as a part of a team, so that impacts the coaching staff, that impacts so many other types of people and professionals in the area. So it's really challenging, and there's not this one clear-cut answer as to how that's done. But what we do is help persons to still get back up out there when they did not achieve the goal that they wanted to, as well as we help to prepare them for retirement and life after sports, knowing that somebody may see you on the road and not acknowledge you, because that's a part of the transition that they have to face, being an athlete, not being recognized as you once were, where people come up to you for autographs. Those are transitions that people have to face. Just even famous people have to deal with that when you're no longer famous. And how do you adjust into regular, normal society life without being depressed, etc. And just an international athlete, their life is completely different. I mean, a simple thing as doing laundry is a major adjustment that you have to make, because I mean, being on tour with international athletes, your laundry and everything's done for you. And when you come back, that becomes a chore. That's something that you have to do.
You have to check on the package, right?
Right. So those little things sometimes are the things that when people are not able to make transitions and adjust and realize that, listen, life isn't static as we expect it to be. There are things that we have to now adjust to, or relearn or undo, because when you're in that setting, you have to adjust, and when you come back, you have to adjust. So it is really about helping people to cope smoothly with the transitions that they'll face, and even, okay, how is it that you start to learn to do an interview versus doing plenty interviews versus not being called for any interviews, So that kind of thing is a continuous basis of training and adjustment and helping people to cope and not feeling depressed and finding the different support system that can help them to navigate each era of life.
Fantastic. Very lively conversation here, and I'm minded to think about some examples, like when one athlete get a big contract and then me not get none. Like me I run a long time and you sign with them and them not call me all now. We tell people all the time not to measure themselves against others, and in sports, that's all it is. Your yardstick is how fast Shelly-Ann did run last year, right? You're going to run faster than Shelly-Ann, you're better than Shelly-Ann, then you can't get the prize. And you go to bed with that. You see the headline, you hear the report, Oral Tracy does the commentary. It is said, right? It is said. It's not in your mind anymore. It's not you trying to self-talk yourself into depression. It is said and it's out there. How do you deal with it?
Awesome. That is a real thing. I mean, and once you're in sport, it doesn't even matter who it is. I mean, it could even be the sports psychologist. You are under extreme scrutiny because you are out there with performing at a shorter space of time, and you are going to be criticized. That is why biting isn't appropriate. You don't just. And you and I may say things when our job isn't going the way we want it to, but there is not 1,000 or 10,000 people viewing us when we don't have the day we want to. So any type of mistake is deemed, is very visual and very obvious, and it's right out there. So one of the things that being mentally tough or, being able to overcome some of those things is just by knowing that every operating device, especially in the 21st century, comes with delete. There is no way you are going to be able to process and take in everything. If you do, then that's where viruses coming in, and just literally speaking, you're not going to be able to function to your true capacity, because people will speak, they have to speak, and again, it is really the woman or the man in the arena that counts. So, and I find that very interesting too, because many times people believe or pretend like they want to win more than an athlete. You don't. You're not at training. You're not there every day doing what they're doing. So don't feel like you want it more than they do. They may pretend that way because they have to be constantly measuring up, and people have different types of defense mechanisms that they use. But at the end of the day, they are human beings who actually want to be treated like humans, but we don't allow them that opportunity. So because of that, they come under huge scrutiny, and where my job comes in now is to help them to know what part of criticism you take in and what part you just dump in the trash.
I love that. It's a nice note on which to close the conversation. So my final two questions for you. Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what
why
I
do you ever
do?
be a nurse? You could have sit the wound, and you can now say the wound close up now and you're healed.
Wow, that's a very interesting question. I do what I do, and usually I'm the one asking the questions, Krystal. I do what I do because I love it, that's one. And many times when you ask artists why they do what they do, they say the music calling. It's not that. It's the same thing. I don't believe that. Well, I always knew that I wanted to be a psychologist. I mean, my yearbook in high school, it was a child psychologist, but then as life happened, I ended up by default in sports, and I just haven't left since. I think it's one of the most challenging yet fulfilling jobs. I actually love the classroom, so I lecture as well, and that's a very noble profession. And that one I love. I think probably that competes with being a sports psychologist. But being a sports psychologist, I'm able to help people to achieve their goals, not just on the court, not just on the track or in the pool, but outside of all of those and just generally in life. So I like what I do. I love what I do. So I get to like and love what I do at the same time, which is a double whammy. I think if you can get both, then you're truly blessed. And I just see this as an opportunity for me to constantly grow and evolve. So, yeah, that's why I do what I do.
Nice. Final question from a psychologist. We talk about fear being present in the minds of people who don't understand how their minds know how it works? Have you had to confront fear? And how you handle it? Knowing that you know what going on in your brain, you know. How do you handle it? How do you handle fear? It's interesting because the person who don't understand how fear works, and you don't know amygdala and prefrontal cortex and basal ganglia, they have no idea what goes on in the brain. And they're so scared.
Wow.
Are you less scared knowing how it works? More scared knowing how it works? How does it feel for you?
How does it feel for me? I think the thing is, as a social scientist, I'm not even going to put a psychologist in it, but knowing exactly how to conquer fear and having to deal with it can be extremely difficult, because it's like you get to operate without anesthesia, you know, so you are just raw on the table and you have to fix what it is. So you don't get to numb it because you know exactly what to do. And because you have that knowledge, with that knowledge comes responsibility. Are you afraid? Of course you get afraid. That's a human learned behavior. But in that fear or that moment of extreme anxiety that can sometimes become debilitating, you can immediately change the course of those thoughts. So in the same way that you help an athlete based on neurolinguistic programming, how to word things that they are afraid of or that they don't want to show up in their life, you are able to help yourself to remember that, listen, I don't need to be afraid of whether or not my car will be outside. When I leave there, I'm just not going to think about the things I don't want to happen. And, you know, focusing more on what you want to happen. And courage, by the way, is just taking action. So that which you're afraid of, okay, let's say you're afraid of dancing or speaking in public, you actually have to take some form of action. And then knowing that, when you know that, you have to use the knowledge because it plays on you even more. So I think it's just choosing every day to be authentic and showing up and taking action. And I think that is how I practice courage. But there are days when I wish I don't have to take action. I would rather not want to take action, but then that little knowledge and then my practice and my training and my experience says, okay, Olivia, you have to take action and you have to show up.
I love this interview. I love it because we're talking about the mind with somebody who's trained to talk about the mind. Thank you very much, Olivia Rose. She is licensed to practice in the field of sports psychology, on her way to that PhD. Yeah. We wish you all the best. Looking forward to calling you Dr. Olivia Rose in short order. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of Good Gas Mondays. If you like what you hear, hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Follow us online as well. You can follow me at Krystal Tomlinson on Facebook and on Instagram, or follow us at Kill Fear Now on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you know somebody who would love the content, share it with them. If you think they have a powerful story or some advice on how they've been killing fear, then send us an email at killfearnow@gmail.com. We're looking forward to hearing from you, connecting with you, and of course, empowering you. How can we find Olivia Rose online? If we need a psychologist, where do we go?
Where do you go? So you go to the sports department at the University of the West. No, it's not the sports department. It is actually the Faculty of Sport, because we've changed name at the University of the West Indies, Mona campus. That's where I can.
And we'll find you online. We can call. We can ask for Olivia.
Oh, and you can find me on Instagram at Olivia K. Rose.
All right. Thank you very, very much again for joining us.